What are your thoughts about the Nike ad with Colin Kaepernick?
I think the ad there was monetary value behind it. Nike knows what it's doing. It's going to stand on the right side of right. They see that Colin Kaepernick has been ousted from the league because of his protest and his political views on the so-called flag, and the owners and their collusion, of standing together to keep him out of the NFL. So, of course, Nike would stand with Colin Kaepernick now. He's about to go to trial, and it doesn't look good for the NFL. So why wouldn't they stand? Like I said, there's monetary gain behind this. We have to look at it. It's a symbolic victory. And it is a victory, but you have to understand why Nike's standing behind Colin Kaepernick. You have to understand the reasons why. People could burn their shoes and, be oppositional of what Nike is doing, but Nike is a corporation that's about making money. And if they know that conscious melanated people are going to look at this symbolic victory and say, let me go buy Nike because Nike's standing behind Colin Kaepernick, it's going to be good for Nike. So instead of buying Nike shoe, buy the stock. Buy the shoe and the stock. That's how you can keep your generational wealth going. Buying the Nike and the stock. Because at the end of the spectrum, we have to understand why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. Francis Scott Keys, the person who wrote the national anthem, was a very well-known racist. He believed that black people were inferior to whites, and he believed they were put on this earth, melanated people were put on this earth to be slaves. And he owned several hundred slaves. So why would I want to kneel for that flag? And they want to group it with, what's the term? You are disrespecting the veterans. It's not a disrespect to the veterans. And since so many people think that Colin's being so disrespectful to the veterans, why is there so many homeless veterans in this so-called United States of America? Because the government and these corporations, they don't care about these veterans. That's just anything to deflect what Colin Kaepernick is standing for. Remember that. It's a symbolic victory. Know your history and know exactly why you're protesting. A lot of people didn't stand with Colin Kaepernick, but they're going to wish that they did. Because he will, be victorious in his own right. He lost a lot of money behind standing for something he believed in. Why would you kneel for a flag when that flag constitutes Andrew Jackson, and Thomas Jefferson, and what's his name? George Washington. I will not tell a lie, or he never told a lie. This is what that flag believed in. Them and the so-called pillars of the community who were raping and robbing melanated people of land and resources and rights. So this is what that is about. You got to know your history. These people that are on the so-called dollar, remember why they're on the dollar. This is their institution. Colin Kaepernick is just a person that's a divergent thinker of what the norm is. Most melanated people, we create slavery when we see a melanated person go against, the norm. We get to buck in our eyes and you shouldn't go against, what Massa said. We have a tendency to recreate slavery all over again amongst each other. And those same people that was oppositional of Colin Kaepernick's thoughts, they'll be the main ones standing on his side. And, I'm glad, that he won, because most melanated people, they're not courageous enough, and I understand that, because you don't want to give back the little resources that the Caucasians have given you. Why would you want to give back those resources? That doesn't make sense. So with that being said, it's a symbolic victory. Go buy the stock and the shoe.
So you recently tweeted about the passing of Mac Miller. Do you care to elaborate?
Well, I don't ever want to see anybody lose their life. and I don't want to be harsh or anything, but let's just get this straight. Mac Miller was a Caucasian Jew. He was Jewish. It wasn't like he grew up poor. And, it just goes to show you that you can have all these things in front of you that are positive, and you can have the money and the fame, but if you're not mentally tough, then none of that other stuff even matters. And that's what the real issue is. Most people are going to make a big deal about it and feel bad, but he was a known drug addict, who probably didn't really seek the help that he needed. I don't know him personally, but I think we got to focus on what the real issue is. Our melanated brothers and sisters, I think we really need to understand this. We need to understand that, having all the fame and the fortune and all that means nothing if you don't have a strong mind and know who you are. I don't want to see anybody lose their life, but at the end of the spectrum, it wasn't like he had a harsh life to begin with. He was Caucasian in America. He can never have the struggles of a melanated person. And let's not forget it. It was the US of A and Ronald Reagan and the Just Say No who infiltrated the black communities with crack cocaine. So now to see their own people, become the victims of what they've done to us, it's not like a chickens come home to roost, but it's more of a situation where you have to look and say, so now all these drugs and this drug epidemic is not just affecting, melanated people, but now it's affecting Caucasians too, more so than us. So let's not forget the 80s epidemic where they knowingly infiltrated the black communities and planted tons and tons of drugs, crack cocaine into the black communities. And then Ronald Reagan's wife, if I'm not mistaken, says, just say no. Is either Ronald Reagan or Nancy Bush. They're all the same. Just say no to drugs, as you're putting tons and tons and tons of drugs into the black community. So when I see a person of Mac Miller's magnitude fight a drug addiction and lose the battle, you have to sit and pause, and you have to take that as a teaching mechanism, and you have to say, let me speak to our young melanated brothers and sisters so they can understand that this is real. But this is not something that the Caucasians have had to deal with like the melanated communities had to deal with. We've been dealing with the drug epidemic since the 60s and 70s when they had all these world wars, and our black soldiers, brothers and sisters, was coming home addicted to all these drugs. So now that is rest haven on Caucasians' membranes, and they can't fight these addictions as well. Now it's going to be this big push to fight the addiction, and the hashtag stay drug free. And it's so funny how you take a Caucasian rapper and he dies from a drug overdose, and it's going to be a big campaign to stop the drugs. But we have melanated brothers and sisters that are on drugs every day that may rap or may have a trade or anything, and they can't kick it. Remember that. You got to fight for your own first. And remember, they planted these drugs in the black communities in the 80s. Not in the white communities, but the black communities. So you have to remember, do your research before you start feeling sorry for all these other races. You got to know thyself and know exactly what's going on.